Oh, I've sat there at that intersection before, and my light they're not maintaining their vehicles under control. And I've watched it with fire trucks on the road, and people don't move over, seen the same thing with, hell, I've seen it happen to a cop.
Yep, they don't.
People just won't move over and don't give a damn.
No. Ready.
Very good, all right. Public hearings, resolution 2309, approve request for retail off-premise beer and wine license for Solig Holding Incorporated, doing business as Busy Bee Marathon at 1801 6th Avenue, Southeast Decatur, Alabama. Sal, anybody on?
Yes, good evening, Ms. Ridley. This is a request for a new alcohol license. It's recommended for approval.
Any questions?
Sal, where approximately is that geographically?
It is located at the intersection of 6th and 14th across from Gateway Shopping Center.
Okay, I know which one you're talking about, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Hey, Sal,
Yes, sir.
while we got you on the line, can you tell us about the business at the corner of 12th and Moulton where we had discussion about the alcohol license before? Did they just come in and get a business license to operate and without
Yes, sir.
alcohol or what?
Yes, sir. They have just got a retail license, convenience store, which covers the retail sales and gas pumps. And I think they have obtained a tobacco license from the ABC also.
Now, this totally different group of person or group of people?
No, sir. These are the same people that the alcohol license was denied.
Okay.
They did obtain the retail license and the gas pump license also.
Okay, my understanding was it was a different group of people. Thank you for answering that.
Any other questions?
I'm sorry.
No, I just
I'm sorry,
said
sir.
thank
Can
you.
you please repeat? I couldn't hear that.
I just said thank you for answering that. My understanding was that it was
Yep.
a completely different group of people. But thank you.
No, sir. No, sir. It was the same people that applied for the alcohol license. There has been some discussion of somebody else coming in applying for the alcohol license or coming in applying all over again, but we've not seen anybody yet.
Thanks, I appreciate it.
Yes, sir. You're welcome.
Any other questions?
None.
Ordinance number 204413, rezoning request number 135420, approximately 40.9 acres, located north of Dalford Street Southwest and west of 14th Avenue Southwest, from R2 to R3. Matt,
Hey, there's nothing to add.
any questions?
Can you give us a brief definition of what the R3 tells us?
Yes, so the R3 is going to have to do with the minimum lot size. So whereas like R2 would be 10,000 square feet, R3 can be 7,000 square feet, and the setbacks are a little bit more forgiving. So instead of R2, where it'd be 8 feet on either side, in R3 it can be 8 feet on one side and 6 feet on the other. Give a little bit more room for the envelope of where to put the house.
Thank you.
Matt, is this?
Does that answer your question, sir?
Yes, sir.
No, because it's 70 acres altogether. So this
Okay.
hey Matt, is this the remaining portion of that property that was, no it isn't,
There's two rezonings,
Yeah.
where's the R4? I thought we were going to do those at the same time.
It is, it's next.
There's not.
They are.
There's only one.
Well, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, it was on.
The agenda's been updated, and it's on there. It was not on there until earlier this morning when I talked, it wasn't on there.
Let me see what I can
It's
do.
off on there.
Okay.
Mr. Jackson, are you okay with both of those?
I'm good, I'm good, and more importantly, the neighbors are okay with both of them. We just wanted to do the one that was currently R4. We wanted to just do that one in the initial row, the first place.
Being in the heart of your district, I just wanted to be sure you were all right with it.
I appreciated that, but like I said, more
It
importantly, the
is.
neighbors are okay with this
Yeah.
aspect of
So
it.
we have a
What's on the
city-
agenda is the R4, it's first. It would be considered first, and the other one was added. Should have been added to your.
Well, actually, this one, Herman,
This
is
one says
the
R2.
R2 to R3, so the one added would be the R4 to the R3.
No. Well, I don't know, I'm looking at this, anyway, both of them are on the agenda. and
Yeah, they
R4
are.
is scheduled to be heard first.
Okay.
As long as we have it ironed out by next Monday, I think that's
It's on the
important.
agenda.
It is, it's,
May not be on y'all, but it's on the,
I think those packets.
What's
may
the
have
ordinance
been
number on the one
before.
that's missing?
I just pulled one.
Is it the 40.9 acres?
That 40.9 is this
That's
one?
the one that's on, okay, hang on, the one before
See, I
it.
thought it was on
Yes, sir.
mine.
The ordinance number 20-4426 is 1365-20. That's the
Correct. And that is what's on the agenda.
I just printed this agenda like at 4:45 and it still doesn't have it on it, so let's
Okay.
just make sure.
It does take a while to
As long as we
cash.
know it'll be their money. I'm not
Check
worried.
seeing it.
Thank you for catching that, though, Billy.
Thank you.
That was, make sure that R4 goes to
Thank you.
R3. Any questions?
Great.
Resolution 23-110, approve MUB expenditure of $119,34.3 for purchase of 2021 Kentworth T370 tandem axle dump truck. You,
Miss Bibby, Gary Board, Decatur Utilities.
hey Gary,
Just a little about this truck. This is a new truck for us. We have been doing some wastewater work with a contractor. The wastewater contractor can't get to it fast enough, so we're preparing in-house to do this work. This is a needed piece of equipment to do that. So it is in our proposed 2021 budget. This unit is in stock, and we can take delivery upon approval. Of course, our board has approved this, and again, it is in our budget.
thank you Gary, any questions? Thank you. Resolution 23-111, approve MUB expenditure of $240,000 for purchase of electroscan info assist planner wastewater inspection unit. Gary, is it you again?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I'll tell you a little bit about this one. Over the last 2 or 3 years, we've been looking at this technology. We've actually had them come and demo this unit for us 2 different times, did live demonstrations for us. What this unit will allow us to do is currently now we go in with TV lines, try to find defects in them. What this piece of equipment will do, will actually hook onto our camera. We can pull it through the line, and it's got some electroscan technology built in it. Ultrasonic technology to where we can, it will look at any void in the pipe and it will grade that void, and therefore we can prioritize the most critical issues in our pipes rather than just looking at it with a camera and it not telling us that much data. So this is a very proven piece of equipment. It will help us do our daily work and fix the issues in our system. So with that, I'll ask for any questions.
Any questions?
No questions.
It was a really cool video, Gary. It's a really neat piece of equipment. Christy and I saw it at your last meeting. So I think it'd be beneficial.
Yeah, they look great. They look great.
Any other questions? Thank you, Gary. Resolution 23-110.
Yes, ma'am.
Approve request for T-Mobile for special use permit to modify equipment on the existing tower located at 1824 Presbyterian Tower Southwest.
Yes, President and Council, this is David Andrews with CMS, the City Consultant for Telecommunications. Resolution 2312 is for an application that was made by T-Mobile to modify the existing antennas that's on the rooftop at 1824 Presbyterian Tower. This is located off of Denver Road, back behind the mall area. They're requesting to remove all the antennas off the rooftop. They currently have 6 antennas. They're going to add back 3 new antennas, and this is for a technology upgrade for the merger for T-Mobile and Sprint. This will bring the T-Mobile and Sprint. It'll actually be for both carriers, although it'll be under the T-Mobile umbrella. They'll also be adding remote radio units behind the antennas, which won't be visible from the ground, and also they'll be changing all feed lines out to fiber feed lines, which will also not be visible from the ground. CMS has reviewed this application and recommends approval.
Any questions?
No questions.
Thank you, David. Resolution 2313, approve request for T-Mobile for special use permit to modify equipment on the existing tower located at 100 Wilson Street Northeast. David?
Yes, ma'am. This is also made by T-Mobile. It's at 100 Wilson Street. This is also a rooftop co-location, so the antennas are mounted on top of the roof. Again, they currently have 6 antennas. They're going to remove all of those. replace them with 3 new antennas. They will be adding new remote radio units behind the antennas, which will not be visible, and there will be no feed line change at this site. CMS also has reviewed this application and recommends approval by the council.
Any questions?
No questions.
Thank you, David. Resolution
Yes, ma'am.
2314, approval of Frameworks Architect for Osteovoid Park improvements. Alan?
Yes, ma'am. Jason Lake and I have been in conversations and communication about the improvements at Austinville Park. And Jason and I feel like that if we could get Frameworks to do a design master plan of what we want to accomplish there. So this would just allow us to move forward with those renovations and improvements.
Alan, is this merely design of the park itself, or what kind of infrastructure within the park?
It'd be redesigned. We'd have communications with some of the residents and with Jason.
Possibly repurposing it.
Repurposing what's there,
Thank you.
Alan,
making
is
more
this
green
out of
space.
CDBG or is this,
Yes, sir. It'd be CDBG.
Hey, Charles,
Yes.
there's a pretty good breakdown that I'm looking at. It states that of that existing play area, remove tennis courts, expand the walking trail, lighting, and fencing.
Is that in your electronic copy, Christie?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah, it'll be doing more green space, in communications with the residents and neighborhood. They just felt like that the tennis courts were not being used, and what were being used, they were using them for soccer fields. So this will remove the tennis courts and make a walking area. And
Thank you, Alan.
The residents actually said that, or Parks and Rec said that?
no, the residents.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
When we met with them.
I just know that when we were over on, we were looking at doing Fire Station 3, and we were gonna put it where the tennis courts were, so it'd have easier access, and those tennis courts are never used. Those people just threw a fit about that, so that's why I was wondering about it.
Or Magnolia 16.
Yeah, Magnolia
Well,
16, they did
and I'm
not
sure
want those
some of
tennis courts were listed.
of course, we've heard from some residents that was one, is it bocce ball? Not pickleball. So,
As long as they're good with it, I mean, I'm
Yeah.
good. I just know that they raised a fit about it.
Yeah, and the residents that we've heard from, they were using those for soccer. I mean, they were playing soccer on them.
Okay.
Any other questions?
No, ma'am.
Thank you, Alan. Resolution 2315, award bid number 20-025 for repairs of the landfill grinder to Thompson Tractor Company. Charles?
Yes, ma'am. We received 2 bids. One was a no bid, and this was repair of the clutch assembly on the grinder. And Thompson Tractor came in at $57,428. Would recommend an award to them.
Any questions? Thank you, Charles.
Yes, ma'am.
Resolution 2316, authorize the mayor to execute a professional services agreement with P. Wright McAnally for project management and civil engineering design for new construction and demolition disposal site. Wanda?
Hi, Wanda Tyler, landfill and recycling. We're reaching our capacity in the construction and demolition part of the landfill, which is cells 2 through 9. And we've been working with Purite McAnally to provide a full written scope proposal for the permitting, the design, the bidding services, and actually they're going to provide administrative tasks in regards to the construction for the new C&D site. This is a 4-cell site. Their services came in at, their fee came in at $56,259. And that's just one part of this proposal. We'll, in another resolution, talk about TTL. They'll be providing the geological, environmental aspects of this project.
Wanda, is that, if you're sitting on top of that where the construction site is that what you and I looked at to the left that's kind of down in that big hole, really?
Well, no, where we were on top of what I'm talking about,
Okay.
where we're, reaching capacity.
Okay.
What we look down at is actually the, MSW, or the municipal solid waste, where the garbage goes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, this will be east of where we were.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Thank you, Wanda. Resolution 2317, authorize the purchase of new Cat D7 dozer. Wanda.
Yes, we currently have 2 dozers on site. We have a John Deere 850, and we also have a Cat dozer D7. Now we're looking to add another dozer to the operation. This is a high-track dozer with a waste handling package. We decided to go back with the D7, mainly because we're about to have a new site, so we need a bigger dozer. The cost came in at $652,882, and we have some discounts because we went through Sourcewell. We're using the Sourcewell pricing contract 032515-CAT through Caterpillar. Like I said, we spent about $40,000 in rental of a dozer because we had a dozer fire last year, and then we also had the other D7, the track needed to be replaced. So in order to maintain our operation and not rent out or spend that much money on rental, I feel it'd be best that we be a 3 dozer operation. That and also because we are fixing to add a new C&D site, this would be helpful.
Thank you, Wanda.
Wanda, what's the lead time on this?
9 months.
Excuse me?
9 weeks.
9 months.
Oh, 9
No, it's about 9 months.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Resolution 2318, authorize the purchase of a 2021 truck with water tank. Wanda.
Yes, we currently have a water wagon, but there's a hole in the tank, and it's just not financially feasible to even repair it. So I got a really good price of $113,748.70 for this water truck, and it's actually a Kenworth Kenworth T270. And it's going to have a retrofitted water tank on it with nozzles on the front and back. And one of the things we're mandated to do at the landfill, both locally and by state, is to prevent dust. And, like last week, we didn't have much rain, but we had a lot of dust. And we have to keep those dust emissions down. And what we do by doing that is water or spray water on the access road. And this will help us to maintain our road.
Any questions?
And this is also going to a well contract, I'm sorry.
Thank you. Resolution 2319, authorize the purchase of a John Deere utility tractor, loader, and cutter. Wanda.
Yes, this is to replace the current Massey Ferguson tractor that's been really a great piece of equipment for us, but it needs to be replaced. It was bought in 2009. And this is, we're buying this John Deere tractor, loader, and also cutter through Alabama state contract. And the cost is $88,338.92. We have to maintain the sales by mowing, cutting down trees. We also have a closed fly ash landfill that we have to maintain. So this is just providing us with some reliable equipment.
When you talk about cutter, you talking about bush hog type device?
Yes, the battling on the back, yes, sir.
And do you have any idea what the horsepower is on that thing? Just curious.
Oh, let's
Just trying to see how big it is.
Yeah. This one. I don't have it in front of me, but I can get it for you.
Okay, thanks, I'd appreciate that. Just trying to see.
Okay.
You give it.
It's fixed on it right there?
Yeah.
Thanks, I appreciate
You
it.
bet. All right, Wanda, hey, I do have a question, Wanda. Does this, I know the last time I was out there, I am the liaison to the landfill, and you had quite a bit of needs that really had not been addressed for a while. Does this really get you all in good shape, you think?
It will. Like I said, we really do need, I think we're a 3-dozer operation. And in at least a year or so, we might be talking about a compactor. But for now, yes. Now, I will be coming before you with, I need to rebuild the grinder that we're about to change the clutch assembly on. And also, but that's all the heavy equipment needs that we need at this time. We'll be fine going until next year.
Very good. Any other questions? Thank you, Wanda. Resolution 2324, establishing health insurance cost sharing. Herman or John? That's
It's gonna
right.
be John, I just got it on the agenda for John.
All right.
Thank you, Herman.
You're punting, right? Thanks. Go ahead.
Council. As you know, in the 2021 budget, we established the split on medical 87-13%. That's approved in this particular resolution, but what it also does, it rescinds the, I believe it's 2015 resolution that says basically whatever a regular employee pays, a retiree pays. There's an impact on that, so that particular retiree issue has to be worked. What is coming down the pike is Rochelle will send a letter out to the retirees explaining the ramifications, giving them an option to do some research to find out what works for them the best. And the plan is to bring this to a close next year.
So in other words, we absorb the cost for this year.
Yes.
We're not doing anything. We're
Yes,
getting
status
them
quo.
a year to go out and look at things. And that cost is 100 and what?
60.
Yeah, it's not cheap, but we're giving them that opportunity, and what we would be doing is going to a percentage that was similar to what the employees are paid.
Correct.
Correct?
And at the same time, and this primarily impacts retirees who are not on Medicare. And so if you're not on Medicare and you're employed elsewhere, or a spouse is employed elsewhere, you could switch plans. You could look at what the city is offering. There'll be other options that people can examine and choose what they think is best for them.
John, let me see if I understand this. The question that Chuck asked you, that 160,000 cost, that's cost on us for the next year?
Yes.
And after that, what's the net effect?
It gets passed on to the retirees,
So,
if the numbers stay the same.
okay, so unless something goes down, that they'll have actually less take-home out of the retirement pay?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
But they will have, the thing is, they will have a year to look at options, and they will pay what percentage of the cost?
I think it's somewhere around 6 or 8% now.
It's now, but don't they go to 13 or?
13, yeah.
4%. They're currently paying 4%, and they'll go to what? 13, which will be the same percentage that the employees are paying.
Thank you.
When was the last time our retirees got a raise?
Not since I've been here.
That'd be 15 years, doesn't it?
It's been a while.
I think all these things will probably be discussed at one time, but the main thing is, right now, without rescinding that resolution, we would have no choice but to charge the 87-13 split to retirees. So we need to get that off the table first, get the options presented to people so they understand everything, give them the opportunity to go through an open season so that they can look at other health care plans and then decide total, not only the premiums, but again, like you said, a COLA for retirees, whatever, as part of a entire,
Things I did not realize, number one, these are different plans. The retirees are not under the same plan, is that correct?
that, yes.
Okay?
Retirees are under the same plan, yeah.
No, they're different premiums.
Different premiums, yeah.
Yeah.
Premiums are substantially higher for a retiree that's non-Medicare.
Right.
The Medicare retiree, there's no additional cost. There's no cost increase from the
I
state.
understand, but the Medicare, for the Medicare patients, that is a separate plan because you're primarily covered by Medicare. So this,
Well, we're under the plan, but in order to stay under this plan, I'm talking about Medicare retirees, in order to stay under the plan, they must buy what's called Part B, which is additional insurance, which comes out of your Social Security check. But they're still part
there is
of
a
the-
difference in premium between an active employee and a retired employee. And the issue
Non-Medicare, your non-Medicare, the premium is substantially higher than Medicare employee.
for a non-Medicare employee. Yes. So the question before the council will be, how does the council want to treat that in that, because if I'm not mistaken, Billy, they were told that their price would be what the employees pay. I think.
And that's
I think
been,
that was
and
my
that was a
understanding of it, but
flex.
still.
And
And that
so
was
the
a
question
flat-
will be, will it be the same percentage or will it be the same amount? And that'll be a discussion y'all will have to have. This gives them a year and y'all a year to think about it.
Well, basically, John, what John's sharing with you is, we're delaying the impact of this new percentage on the non-Medicare retiree, his or her family. Whereas the Medicare retiree is no impact.
One way or the other. Well, coming down the further, their cost may actually come down.
Actually, the cost to a Medicare
Care person will come
retiree
down.
under the percentage formula will go down. All right?
We're trying to set something else, John? Lost in the shuffle?
I think essentially we're just delaying the inevitable for a year is what is happening.
Well, the inevitable, but you give them the opportunity to see if they want to stay under the current plan or if they can find something that's better.
No, I agree, but something's got to change and.
Something's got to change.
Well, John, share with them, the impact, if we make the percentage across the board for all retirees, a non-Medicare retiree, that's single coverage, go up about $96 a month. That's, if you get the percentage. If you have the family coverage as a non-Medicare retiree, your premium would go up $110 plus per month. If we have implemented that percentage this year. What this is doing is delaying that implementation for 1 year.
Any questions?
Ms. Hill, do you have any questions?
No, ma'am.
Thank you, John. Resolution 2320, Danville Road Emergency Signal for new fire station. Carl?
Yes, Mayor Council, this is a resolution to do engineering work for the emergency signal for the, I guess it'd be the new fire station number 5.
Questions?
Carl, the signal that's at the old station now, is that just going to sit there until some future determination is going to be made and just be inactive, or what?
That's a good question. I can ask that of Temple. My thoughts would be if the fire station is not in use, that emergency signal could be removed. I don't guess it hurts for it to remain, because that's what people are used to seeing, but if there's not a use, I would probably lobby to take one of the two down.
Could we not use the old one at the new location?
You probably could. I don't know what the difference in cost between buying doing a single pole, a new pole versus, moving and relocating existing things. I can ask that of the engineer. This is basically to get the engineering done, so we know what we need to deal with. The big thing here is going to be coordinating this light with the light at Modus and Danville.
Sure.
Just whenever those answers come through, Carl, just advise the council at that time, if you would, please.
I will.
Thank you, Carl. Any other questions? Resolution 2321, Bibb Garrett Aldott permit. Carl?
Yeah, this is the agreement, I guess the permit agreement between us and Aldott for our bridge project there at Highway 20 in Bibb Garrett. And just need this approved so we can get signed and sent to Aldott, and just another piece of the process to get done.
Any questions? Thank you, Carl. Resolution
Thank you.
2322, authorizing the mayor to execute a consulting service agreement with TTL Incorporated for geotechnical and environmental services for a new construction and demolition disposal site. Wanda?
Hi, yes, this goes with the Purite McAnally proposal. This is for the environmental piece of the project, where they are going to look at soil borings. They're going to look at the evaluation of the waters for the Corps of Engineers, endangered species, any archaeologically sensitive areas around the new construction site. And they're going to do any groundwater considerations or an exploration around that site. So this is with TTL, and the amount came to, sorry, had it in front of me, $29,523 in regards to these consulting services.
Thank you, Wanda. Any questions? Resolution 2323, declare surplus of municipal vehicles no longer needed by the fire department. Becky?
Yes, these three pieces of equipment are for the fire department. We have a 2001 Surrey safety trailer. It does need some minor work, but it's fine to sell on gov deals. This also includes a 2001 KME pumper, fire truck. The fire department keeps this in reserve. It does have some high mileage, but it is a good candidate for gov deals. Also, 2003 Holland trailer. Was used as a rehab trailer. It is in good shape. It's no longer needed, and it is good to sell for gov deals.
Any questions? Ordinances, ordinance number 204431, declare surplus and sell 710 Walnut Street Northwest. Alan?
Yes, ma'am, this is just the surplus and sale of 710 Walnut Street. If the council doesn't have any questions, there's no changes from when we first presented last council meeting.
Any questions? Boards and committees, appoint Jack Bryan to DDRA.
That was requested to be placed on there by Councilmember Hill. That's to replace Doug Backus because he's been elected to the school board.
And there's also one other appointment that they've sent my way. It's Marley
Schmidt.
It's for Melissa Craig, I believe, her replacement. So Stacy has that.
And you
So
all
if wanna
have
add
the
it,
application.
and it can go out to council this week.
That's in our package somewhere. And I did want to ask on that, and Marley's a wonderful person. I just wanted to be sure we didn't have any conflicts with being on the tourism board and being on DDRA at the same time.
That's what I was thinking too. I mean, I agree with you. She's a great young lady, but I just don't know if there's a conflict there.
Let me double check my phone and see, because either I thought it or I actually asked Connie and Rick about it, because I know that there's a tourism seat on that board that Danielle fills. So I'll check into that.
And if that's been the history, I'm fine with, like I said, she's a wonderful person.
Yeah.
I guess the
okay.
question is, if Danielle sits on that board, Christie, which she's been there several times, do we really need two folks from tourism on that board?
That's a good point.
Herman, I mean, I don't know that you do. I mean,
Of course, you look to see if you have other people that may be interested in being on the board, and you've got somebody else. That seems to be
Perception.
We looked into, we got 2 people from the same group sitting there.
Maybe Danielle would like to, source that out to her. That'd be something too they could do probably within themselves. You'll check on that, Herman, just we'll double check, or,
I will.
I just think, I mean, again, nothing personal, it's just 2 people from the same organization on one
The
board.
appearance of it, unless there's something
It's
in
perception.
the structure, the appearance of having 2 people with the same background, same organization appears to be on the surface, something that you'd want to not have occur. How about that?
Herman, would it be helpful if I inquired on this for you and got back to you?
I never want to turn down somebody's insistence.
Let me make a call and get back to you.
May not
Call the
take-
lead.
Hey, Charles.
Yes, ma'am.
Hey, Charles. I'm also going to reach out to Rick about it as well, just to make sure that he knows that our concerns and just hear what his thoughts were on that.
All righty,
If you want to check with Danielle.
will do.
Would you like me to call the league?
Yeah, let's make sure, I think, since we have a contract outside of, with that organization, it's, again, as Herman said, it just doesn't really look appropriate. All right, any other questions or comments?
I would like to, I know this is our last meeting of this term, but I would like to add, I'd spoken with you about naming the auditorium at Turner Searles for Mr. Ron Matthews. He was the inspiration for that building. In 1996, when I came onto the council, he shared a story with me and at a conference, and the story kind of held. And Herman, you remember, we found ourselves in a situation, and Alan, I don't know if you were here or not, we found ourselves in a situation with CDBG funds where we had like $1.9 million that had to be spent, or HUD was looking at retracting that money. And after having the story from Ron Matthews, and he actually talked about the Memorial Drive. He invited me in 1996 to a conference, the Electric Cities Conference at Perdido Beach. And he shared with me a story about how the Memorial Drive Senior Center had kind of been taken away from the citizens that it was actually intended for. I don't want to say taken away, that might not be the best term, but it turned into something different than it was intended to be. And that story stuck with me, and when we found ourselves in that situation with $1.9 million and at risk of losing that, I went to Michelle Jordan and asked her if this would qualify for it. We had an abandoned building on Sycamore Street, and that abandoned building has turned into what we now see with the Turner Searles Center. A lot of people got involved with that as the project started to grow. But the inspiration behind that completely was Ron Matthews. Without his story and without him sharing his thoughts on that, the vision never would have come to me. And so that's kind of where we are. So I would like to, Ron is not in the best of health, I'll say, and I'd like to at least honor him with the renaming of the auditorium portion of that, which would just be inclusive in the Turner Searles project, but I'd like to honor him with the auditorium portion of that, so that he can at least forever be a part of that building that he was the inspiration for.
That's great, and you know, I've spoken to his wife.
Yeah, I've spoken with his wife, and Paige has spoken with his wife, and they're honored by that, but I would like at least if the council would entertain us putting this on this agenda so that we could move forward with that, I'd appreciate that.
Herman, can you write that up for us? Or Alan, whichever, y'all can work together.
Thank you.
Yes, you can give copies.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's it, we'll get that.
Thank you.
Ron's a great guy.
Yeah. And anyway, I just think it's the appropriate thing to do.
Yeah, if we had an abandoned building that was deteriorating quite quickly,
And
the chancellor would bring it back.
the important thing is that the neighbors of that particular community had to come out probably once a year to fight a rezoning on that for light industry. They didn't want that there, and this was the thing that made the renovation of that building was acceptable by the community because of this. And it's still accepted by them, and I think it's utilized on a daily basis. Now that COVID is here, it's not, of course, but it is It's a great resource center for our community. We do the free lunches there, and Ron was the one who actually indicated or shared with me how we were supposed to do the free lunches, and so we were able to connect with NARCOG and bring the free lunches to our older citizens there, and that still goes on today after about 22 years now, because I think it was 1998 when we did that. So after 22 years, that program is still going forward, and I think that we just need to honor people who contribute to our city like this. So that's where I am, and that's one of the things that I have to talk about.
Thank you, Billy.
And I appreciate you guys.
Do you have
entertaining
something
me.
else?
I do.
Okay.
We have, through youth services, we have a Girls Connected for a Cause. And one of the things that they do, part of their mission statement is to give girls the opportunity to become civic leaders and community stewards of today and tomorrow. That's part of their mission statement. And part of the process, throughout time, these girls have become a part of our community activities. They have partnered with people, and they've dealt with teen suicide awareness. One of the initiatives that they have right now is Children in Poverty. They want to kind of see if they can address some of those issues. Color for a Cause, which was a program that was done at our mall, and it was they were joined by the Girl Scouts and Decatur City Schools and Decatur Morgan County Library, and a lot of different people participated in that. The Youth Awareness 5K, the inaugural Youth Awareness 5K run. Not One More, which is another suicide prevention movement. They went to the Edmund Pettus Bridge several times for the march across the Edmund Pettus Bridge, and what has been done is they have tried to become a part of our community, and they have tried to teach these girls that they have a responsibility in the community that they live in, whether it's here or somewhere else. And this weekend they did a voter registration drive, and this was just in line with the things that they have done before. And Herman and I have had this conversation, and I don't think Herman and I are on different pages. I just want to kind of bring it out, Herman, but you know, this is just in line with the things that they've done over time. What they do is remarkable for these little girls who are, you know, I think they're 6 to 12 or something like that. But it just brings an awareness. This weekend when they had the voter registration drive, and not only are they taught about their civic responsibilities, but they're taught about government interaction, their role in the government, the constitutional requirements and things of that nature. Well, this weekend when they had the voter registration drive, they were unexpectedly graced with the presence of Senator Doug Jones. A sitting U.S. Senator came. And with the sitting U.S. Senator coming, regardless of how we feel about it, there are only 100 of those in the United States. 100. And for these girls who are taking part in civic responsibility, that's something that will never be forgotten by most of those girls, I'm sure. But it turned into something political, I think. And the phone calls started coming where we were questioning whether or not we should use youth services vans and things of that nature for that. I simply want to say, and this is simply my commentary, but I simply want to say that this is an opportunity for our girls to learn about our community. It's not limited to any certain girl. There's no political initiative here. It's simply trying to get them to be aware of what goes on in our community and make them help their parents and other adults aware of what's going on in our community and what needs to happen in our community. So I hope that this is not the beginning of something where we start looking and start trying to pick at things that are not things that should be picked at. This is something where we should actually applaud these girls. We should applaud what they do. We should applaud youth services for what they do and trying to facilitate this. And this is, again, it should never be turned into something political because someone who we like or someone who we don't like shows up at a function where they were unaware that this person was going to show up. So I just wanted to say that. If anybody has anything they'd like to say or come back with on that, I'll accept your comments. But I just think that these are things, and I hope that this is not the beginning of us picking at youth services. We have a great director there. Who is doing great things and moving us in a direction that we need to move in. taking us maybe not in the same direction that our former director had us in, but in a good direction, a good and positive direction, and I think his heart is in the right place. And so I don't want people to start picking at this director as a way to run him out, because he might not have been the person who was desired by some of our leaders. That's all I have to say.
I agree with you, Billy. I think it's a great program. I think they have a Boys to Men that kind of mirrors that program.
It does.
And you hate to see things get political and partisan, especially this time of every 4 years. Seems like this year has been a particularly bad year. And I really hope, as you, that people don't take posts from people trying to do something good and young people trying to do something positive in our community personal in an election year. I think it's very childish and demeaning of the program itself, demeaning of those young people. And I agree with you. I think that if people have a problem with that, that's unfortunate, and they need to, I think, get a better grasp on a lot of things, I guess. I think I'll leave it at that. But I agree with you, and I hate if any of these young people were ridiculed or made to feel bad for something that, again, a sitting U.S. Senator, I don't care what party you're for, you should be happy that someone came and helped to answer, I believe, answered questions for them.
Did.
And enlighten them on some things, and I think that's a good thing. So.
Thank you.
Madam President.
Yes, sir.
Do we have an update on the Thursday public hearing at this point?
Heard anything?
I have yet to receive a final response.
Are we still projected at Ingalls?
Yes,
Yes,
Jason did.
at this time.
Double check that. And we said 6:30, is that correct?
You said you haven't received a final. Have you received any?
I did call. I was told that I would get a response. I have yet to get that.
And I point out that's only 3 days away.
It was at 6:30 that we decided?
Correct?
And you'll let us know as soon as if you get a response.
Absolutely.
And so, I think Bain, didn't you say you'd spoken to one, Bain? I believe it said, had no interest in being there? We'll see what happens. Anyone else on council?
Ms. Bibby, I had also talked to you about another topic perhaps we can put on the table just for discussion. The issue has come up about employees being told about not being able to carry over some time past December 31st, I believe. And I want to find out what our policy is on that.
What's the issue?
We have.
Employees with off time scheduled that after December 31st, it's use it or lose it situation. And especially during this COVID-19 period where a lot of people have not been able to take their time because of other people being quarantined and such.
Charles,
Okay.
I
Is
did have-
Rochelle on the phone?
Yeah, this is Rochelle. The policy is very clear. It's a use or lose policy. There's a carryover allowance of a maximum of 80 hours per year.
Okay. So there is a carryover policy of 80 hours a year?
Use or lose anything over 80 hours on the carryover, yes.
Then Rochelle, I have a good
Okay, so-
question. I have a list here in front of me of about 50 or so, probably more, that have extensive amounts of time that are way over 80 hours. And so I did talk to Dr. Gilmore when Charles called me with this question because I was not aware of, I didn't even know. He just asked me and I was finding the answer for him. Dr. Gilmore did say that last week y'all did have a personnel meeting where this has been a problem. In January of every year, a lot of these would just be carried over as recommendations from personnel. Dr. Gilmore says he does not remember January of this year making that recommendation, and we as council, I've already checked, did not pass that. So we did not carry over any other than the 80 hours that is here in the merit system guidebook that I do have with all the rules. So I guess my question is, how do we have this big list of folks that in 2 years, if they all want to retire at once, something will have to be done with all these extra vacation times?
So to kind of back up, I'm not sure what a lot of employees who have carried over. I think what you might have is a report that shows their current status. Employees are allowed to carry over the 80 hours, and then in January they accrue that next year's available time. So if they carry over the 80 and they've been here long enough and carry out and then have the 160 hours added, then that might be what you're looking at. I will tell you that the fire chief came in November and asked and told me he was going to be retiring, and we had a handful of employees that were new in operations, and he needed to help them with some information and transition and hands off, and he asked at that time, could we consider an accommodation, because those folks, it would be very difficult to schedule that time off. That was 5 employees, so I'm not sure what a lot means, because I'm not aware of this.
I have 50 employees who in the next 2 years can retire, and I'm looking at numbers anywhere from 361, 280, 292, 239, 232,
Right.
238. Well, in the next 2 years, we can have 50 employees. If they decide all to go out at once, that would be a huge payout that I believe, I don't know the city was intending that to happen. And I guess after talking with Dr. Gilmore, I understand that's an issue that, as I agree with him, I think it's something that needs to be addressed. It should have been addressed years ago, probably, and we would not be in the position we are now. But I think right now, as Charles said, with talking with Mr. Gilmore, or Dr. Gilmore, if some of these folks take vacation now, it will leave a lot of our departments with a skeleton crew that really just cannot operate day-to-day functions. And that's just not, I don't know what you do about that. I think that's not fair to the employee, and really not fair to the citizens of the city who have business dealings and come up here and we don't have enough folks in the departments to run them. So.
Okay. Let me just kind of revisit this just a little bit. It was in 2007, the board recommended and the council approved that folks who were retiring would be paid out for their accrued balance of vacation in the year they retired, and would also be eligible for their next year's accrual. So that's where we're having the challenges on the retiree impact. That was approved back in 2007. Now, this all came up in June when the police department, police chief Allen said, hey, with this pandemic, we got a lot of employees with this 4 weeks of vacation plus carryover. I think we're going to have some challenges. And as we discussed that, we said, come back in July. Let's take a look at what the summer vacations do to that. And then we'll take it to the personnel board and have them review it. In August, they reviewed that and they said, hey, we're going to consider this, but we want to understand from you what's your plan to minimize these hours, what's your plan to make sure these folks use the carryover in the following year, because they're aware of this impact. And the next report that came back in September was significantly less. What I got back from many of the department heads was, we worked this out, we've got a plan for using this up this year, we send our request. There was only a handful, I think 9 that came forward to the board at that time, or 9 employees that had an excess that the department head requested to carry over into the next year. So it was only 9 employees. I think the police department has worked out their scheduling. Most of the fire department, I'm not aware of any concerns that came forward to the board after their decision.
Mr. Kirby, you'd have to answer that because you're the one that called me with the.
Yes, and Ms. Rochelle, what you're explaining on the legalities, I have a lot of faith in, and I'm sure you're 100% right. However, we have some unusual circumstances, and no department has complained to me, okay? I've just been hearing some rumors float around here and there. But, for example, this was election year, with a lot of hours having to be invested, and by the nature of what they do, we have some departments that have more of an open ear on this issue and being able to carry over time than other departments. And we've had some departments affected by COVID quarantines. And obviously, if somebody's quarantined, other people are needed in a department that cannot take their time off. I just want to be sure that we're being a little bit flexible and not being totally different where one class of employees has got a completely better set of rules than the other class of employees do. You get my meaning?
I think, as I understand you correctly, you have concerns that there are some departments, based on their tasks and responsibilities, may have challenges in managing that time. All I can recommend is that if there are departments that have major concerns, they really should raise those to the mayor and to the personnel board, and I'm sure the board would entertain a relook just to make sure they haven't missed information that didn't get forward to them, because again, what came back to me was, we've got this worked out.
And obviously, this would fall on those new council members coming in, and we certainly don't want to dump a big problem on them with very short preparation time on it. But if there's things we can do based upon this COVID crisis that don't cost us an arm and a leg, I'm certainly in favor of being a little bit lax during the COVID period.
Rochelle, upon retiring, I'm sorry, are you about to say something?
No, that's okay, go ahead.
At the point of retiring, we will cover, how many hours will we cover for a person who's retiring? Up to, is it 300 hours?
Well, up to whatever they're eligible for. So the normal employee can carry over 80 hours. If that employee, most retirees have, can earn 160 in that next year, so we're at 240 hours. With the exception of those 5 employees earlier this year in the fire department, consistently, they're at 240 hours if they haven't used it. So when they retire, if they have carried over that 80 hours, and they've been issued their 240 hours for the year in which they retired, if they've worked 6 months or more than 6 months in that current year of retirement, then they are also eligible to be paid out for the 240 hours they would have earned in the following, 160 hours they would have earned in the following year. So we're talking 80, 160, 160. So yes, we're talking about 400 hours.
That we will pay them for. So because, Herman, do you recall, and I'm going to call on you to see if you can help me with this. At one point, we had a situation where we had employees with 14, 15, 1,600 hours worth of time that they could retire with.
You're talking about sick leave.
Sick.
Is that only sick leave?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sick leave. What happens, sick leave, you can, basically, if you've got 1,200 hours of sick leave, you can get credit for 600.
600, and see, but we capped that at 600, correct? Did we not?
It's
Okay.
not been changed.
All right, okay, then I was off beat, thank you.
Maybe let me help focus the question a little bit better, if I may, and I'm certainly not trying to make a problem here, I'm just trying to be sure that we're
So this is
doing all we can do for all of our
vacation time,
employees.
correct.
Do all employees have that ability, if they've served enough time, to carry over 400 hours?
Well, none of them have the opportunity to carry it over, with the exception of a unique situation. Say, for example, our planner was a one-person department that could not take time off, so that accommodation was made to allow that person to carry some time over, have more time to manage it. But they can carry over the 80. Then on January 1st, they accrue immediately what they're eligible for that year. So now we're at 240. If they retire, say July or August, and they don't use anything up to that point, they take that 240 hours at retirement and also earn the following year 240 hours. Depends on when they retire, depends on how they've used their time. But the resolution, the number of the resolution is 07-098 from May 2007. Now, I will honestly, I saw this and had a legal counsel review with the personnel board. I think we're not clear on the interpretation, but my understanding since I've been here is that because they wait a year to get their vacation in their first year of employment, that's an opportunity, or was practiced, because they had to wait that first year. So therefore, they're a year behind in accrual. I'm not sure that that's clear in this resolution, but that was the practice for years.
Yeah, sick leave is earned in arrears. You have to stay here a certain period of time to earn sick leave. So that's the philosophy, right? Or that's what she just said. If you earn in arrears.
John, I know this would be a nightmare, but should we be accruing for carryover of vacation so that funds are charged so that they aren't?
We have to account for the balances as a liability in the cap.
Okay, but that's a balance sheet. What do you do from the cash expenses?
In the past,
Or not cash, but expenses.
Yeah, to pay it out in the past, there's been enough slack in the personnel side of the budget, and not significant number of retirees, so we could internally cover that. You know, we made adjustments to payroll this year. If we have a large numbers, it could be a problem this year.
So
John,
essentially,
if,
you have 50 people who in the next 2 years can retire. If they should all want to retire at the same time, there will be an issue. Am I right?
that's what I was about to ask. If the number of those people retire that have a lot of hours to carry over with them, we make contributions based on that payroll, don't we? For each payroll check, there's contributions made, withholdings, whatever.
If they use vacation, it takes it out of their vacation balance and they get paid as if they were at work. It's just they didn't work.
What I'm saying, let's assume they did not use it, and then they're going to retire.
It should be capped, is what we're
It's-
saying.
They get whatever the hours.
But even
are,
though it's capped, it's-
They get it treated like regular pay, so you.
Right.
There's a FICA portion and everything else.
Now, let's just say that regular pay was $1. They don't get paid $1 because there are contributions that come out of that dollar. But the city matches many of those contributions. The employer, all those contributions, the employer doubles.
The FICA side, yes.
So if a lot of those people retired and we end up paying those all at one time, we'd have considerable cash being paid out.
Yes.
That's why we have to, I guess, account for it in the audit, because it could be possible that could happen.
I just want to be sure that this is not a surprise to us, and we believe
You
that.
cross that list against the number of people who are retirement eligible, and that would probably show you the exposure.
It is capped at 400 hours. It will never exceed 400 hours. That's the maximum.
Yeah.
Okay.
You've got 80, in theory, you've got 80 carryover plus a maximum of 160. So nobody should be on 1 January, nobody should be over 240.
Okay,
Unless
you're
they-
saying no one should be,
Unless they,
but there's documentation that we do have people that are. So it was carried over by someone, which we're gonna say is the personnel board, which should have been a recommendation to council to carry over, but it never was.
right, so it's not only COVID, it's a carryover issue too.
Right.
Well, as far as.
Well, that would be a process issue because I don't think that this has really come up historically. Before we moved to the new payroll system, all time was accounted for as regular time. There was no accounting for in our system for vacation time used. That was all done manually through paper timesheets and then conversations back and forth between HR. So this really hasn't come up before now because there's no way we created manual reports for all that stuff. I think where we are today is we have documented data records that can help. And kind of going forward, I will be honest that John and I have discussed this, and Kyle has discussed it many times. There may be other solutions, such as accruing biweekly, making some allowances for those folks who have or fall under this resolution, accrue biweekly, and then what's accrued is what's paid out, rather than, some number in the future. I think we just have to look at solutions on how to accrue that time so we have a better handle on what's going to happen at the time of exit from the city.
As far as the COVID issue goes, could we not, if the board determined that certain people were able to carry over more than 80 hours, would that not fit under the expenses that we incurred during COVID?
No, that's something I don't know that's not additional cost. Well, I guess I'm.
Sure it is, because what we're doing is if it were deemed that there were certain things that had to be done, and I'm not saying they will, but I'm just saying if they were, then those are additional expenses that we occurred strictly because of COVID-19.
I don't think
They're not additional.
they weren't expenses because they didn't get to take their vacation, so you're now making them to the
It's an
expense.
expense.
What we tried and what we're in discussion with right now with the state
Yes.
is, let's take any emergency service, police or fire. If somebody was quarantined, okay, and you had to bring somebody on to replace that person who was
quarantined and had to pay overtime, is that COVID-related reimbursement? Because you're not, it's COVID-related and you didn't budget for it.
Right.
And we're still going back.
You don't know the answer to that?
I don't know the answer to that question. We're almost at the point where we're just going to submit it because we've got nothing to lose.
Yeah.
But the point is, what you have to do is you have to identify the person who's quarantined, the period that they're quarantined, the people that work that weren't scheduled to work, and what those costs were and everything else. So it's a lot of information gathering.
Okay.
I'm going to suggest would be, I think Michelle has heard your concern. She needs to go back to the board and let them look at the various, but there should be very few exceptions.
I agree.
People that have, the rule has been, the merit system rules say you can carry over 80 hours. So that's the rule, that's the way it's been since the merit system has been in place. And anybody's exception to that had to in fact be an exception.
And I'm not asking for the dam to be open and just the waterfall cascade begin. I'm just saying if we have some departments that are under duress because they have not been able to properly schedule people, is there ability within personnel to be a little bit flexible on that issue?
The answer is they'll have to look at it.
Case by
All
case.
over, they did ask for that from the various departments before. Department presented just as I did. I presented the schedule, how we were going to use the vacation, except myself, and there's no way I can figure that out. So, but basically, we figured a way out. We had some people that had a substantial amount of vacation or hadn't been able to use it. But they're going to use it between now and December 31st.
And are we going to end up in a position with some departments with next to nobody there because of that?
Well, here's the issue you're coming down to. It's not the leave issue. Now you get into a staffing issue. Okay? You're away from that. If you're not staffed to a high enough level where people can take vacation when they want to take vacation, that's the issue.
Yeah, but the only thing is, John, is that with the COVID situation, some people might not have been able to take the vacation like they needed to. And that's what he's actually saying, is that they might not have been able to take that vacation. So now that we're at this end point,
They may not have been able to go someplace for vacation. They would have been able to take a day off. They may have been able to do something at home, do something with
No,
family.
no.
They may not have been able to go on a trip.
for me, it's not about traveling or doing anything like that. For me, it's about the person
Replacing the
sitting-
person's
sitting- the
quarantine.
person sitting next to me was in quarantine. And I couldn't take vacation because this person was out of the office.
Again, I think you're talking about a staffing issue and not a.
It absolutely is a staffing issue, but I mean, we set our staff so that we can accommodate the needs of the city. And now that COVID's come into the equation, you know, our staffing solutions are not what they normally are. So I guess my concern is that if people have not been able to leave because of a coworker being out or someone being quarantined or whatever reason they were out related to COVID, now that person is at risk of losing time or using it. And if they use it, then it puts the department back in a tough situation again.
You're only kicking the can down the road. So.
I agree that we're kicking the can down the road, but right now, I don't know that there's any other option other than to kick the can down the road, is there?
Rochelle, how many people are you aware of that this is an issue? Or have most of the directors said this is not an issue?
Most of the directors and the one who led the conversation in June with the police department, they've all have worked out their scheduling. A lot of challenges we have in our departments is folks save their time till November and December and use the bulk of it then. So to my knowledge, they went back to their departments to identify what's your plan. There are only three departments on our list of nine employees. I think that when we step back and look when you look at why wasn't vacation taken, I have some concerns, as do department heads, that from January to the COVID impact, zero time was taken. From around June to now, zero time has been recorded. We have a a time management issue in part, and there's no doubt that COVID has created challenges. I guess my question would be, out of 500 some odd employees that were able to manage their time and use down, so they're not going to lose time, how did we get just to 9 who didn't?
Okay, but there's 9 people, those can be considered by the personnel board if they're appealing it, correct? Or not?
I didn't catch all that, I'm sorry.
So there are 9 people that you're aware of that are asking for an extension. Have they made a formal request, or is there a mechanism to do so?
Well, so that conversation came through the department heads to the personnel board. We presented a comprehensive report. The department heads are advocating for those employees. There hasn't been any other discussion since their decision was sent out. No one's approached me or the board that I'm aware of that just said, hey, this is really putting my department in a bind.
Your decision was last week, though, so we're talking less than a week, right?
That is correct. Well, the decision was last Tuesday. They met on October the 6th, I think it was.
Well, let's just go ahead and say that it was the police, the fire, IT and clerks, I think departments were the ones that we have people that are accruing time. And IT, you can think with the COVID, of course, they've had to come in and set up employees who are working from home. Clerk, we have an election this year that has been quite extensive. Police and fire, you can use, I guess, I don't know the time with COVID, but, they're first responders. And Chuck, there's a list right there if you'd like the packet, but,
Well, Rochelle, I think she said that
well,
let them come back.
Yeah.
okay, well, I'm just telling you, I spoke with Dr. Gilmore on Friday. I don't know that, I think you're right. I think they should be able to come back. I didn't get that impression from him that the committee was willing to look at it. It was kind of like, we need to tidy this up, and I agree. I think COVID has put kind of a problem in that mix right now, personally, and I think we should take those under individual consideration.
And again, this is not something that's going to fall on us. It's going to fall on the new group that's going to be forced to deal with this, I think.
Well, didn't you say, Rochelle, that those groups can still come back, or they cannot?
Well, that may have been the message that was received when the board said this is our decision, we need you to use your time, but there's never any reason that someone can't come back and say, I need your help, this isn't going to work for me. That, maybe there hasn't been enough time for that. I'm sure the board would entertain hearing directly about what those concerns are.
Chuck, if you go back to your email last week, they actually emailed you the audio minutes from that meeting, and you can hear that it was pretty clear they weren't really going to entertain, but I think they should.
That's essentially what I was proposing, that if there's an issue that somebody does bring forward, that we be somewhat lenient of how we approach it and try to resolve it in some way. At least until the crisis is over.
Well, then how about Rochelle check into that?
Yeah, as the mayor, what are you doing on this?
Working with Rochelle and the personnel board. Really, I haven't met with the personnel board, so just take that out. But just listening to Rochelle. Go ahead.
And throughout the pandemic time, I know that department heads have shared, we've had restrictions on overtime, make sure that you're sharing with the mayor what your staffing concerns are, that's all. There's been, to my knowledge, fairly open conversation about our challenges throughout the process. I do want to remind everyone that throughout the process, the city took care of our employees. We made sure they were kept whole. We did even through the minimum staffing requirement where folks were sent home on standby but still received pay. So, the board is very generous in considering what we need to do to make sure, we can meet operations but still not see the employees harmed. So I'm happy to take information back to the board from this meeting and to the department heads.
Ask the mayor to look at those, to ask the department heads to make sure that they are satisfied that that has been handled. And if it has, and there are 9 people that are the that there are 9 individuals that departments are concerned about, that the mayor look at that with Rochelle and they make a decision and go to the personnel. Because it's a personnel issue. And I think that would be the responsibility of the mayor and the personnel.
It's a staffing issue and a personnel issue, as you say, but I guess my concern would be this, and I'm not suggesting that this department is even in this situation, but we're already shorthanded in our sanitation department and our garbage pickup, for example. If there were a situation where, I guess I'm just using this as a hypothetical situation to make my point, but if there was a situation where we're already shorthanded and these guys were told that, these people were told that they had to use their vacation time or lose it, and we're already shorthanded and we're already not picking up things in our city like we need to be picking things up, it's going to get much worse. And that's because people are going to take their vacation time versus losing that time. And so that's my concern, is that, and again, that's a hypothetical situation. We might be in a perfect situation with that department, but I just know we're already shorthanded there. And if we don't allow those people to carry it over because of these extenuating circumstances, then, you know, we're going to be in a pretty bad situation, even worse situation, I'll say, as a city as far as our garbage pickup and our trash pickup. And that's the way I'm kind of viewing this thing, and that's just doing a microcosm, well, that's just putting it in one department that I'm using as a hypothetical situation.
Well, the one thing we haven't heard is why the personnel board decided not to allow carryovers. So, I mean, they heard the arguments, they made that decision. We haven't heard that.
And I can understand that from a historical perspective, because employees can always want something a little extra. That's just the nature of the way the world works. But I just wanted to be sure during this COVID situation that we weren't letting what we historically do limit us in looking for solutions.
Yeah. And, you know, the answer is probably somewhere in between, because you heard the concern that they weren't taking their vacation versus those that were in a situation where they physically could not take it. So those that mismanaged, yes, those shouldn't necessarily be able to carry over, but those that are truly have been imposed upon like that, they're obviously.
So this tab, what are your thoughts as it relates to if the personnel board were to be able to give some grace here based on COVID, but exclude retiring during that period? In other words, the vacation time would have to be used for vacation.
I think I need to pose that question to our personnel board legal. The question is, if it's carried over and it would have otherwise expired, but we accommodate to, you know, through this process, is there the opportunity to limit that and exclude it from any payout opportunities because it would have otherwise expired? Is that what you're asking?
Yes, that is.
I got you.
Personally, I would be fine with that, because we're talking about people being able to have time off away from work. I'm not interested in what they can accumulate for retirement. I'm interested in that they get the time off that they are due without losing. So if there is a way to say that they could carry over time into next year, but they had to use it or lose it in the next year, then I'm fine with that.
And Dr. Gilmore is out of the country until the end of the month. He left Friday, and he is the chair of that board. So I don't know if you need to wait on him or not. That would be up to you.
Well, I do thank everybody for at least entertaining the conversation.
And I apologize for misunderstanding when I was talking sick time and vacation earlier, so I apologize.
I don't think that it's going to kill us to wait till he comes back.
On sick time, let me just address that. The city, I'll have to look at the date, but years ago, the city adopted the policy that there are no carryover limits on sick time, because that time can be used towards service credit in the retirement system. Where an employee elects not to use it for sick time or service time in the retirement system, they have the option to be paid out for a certain amount, half of a certain amount, to a maximum of 600 hours. So the sick time is a little bit of a different animal.
It is different, and that's what I was just sharing with Charles, that when we had the conversation, that I misunderstood where he was going, and so that was why I made that statement. I just misunderstood his point.
Any other questions
Thank
to
you.
that?
Not today.
Anybody? Chris, do you have anything?
Actually, not in regard to that, but I did find out some information with regard to the GDRA board. And Danielle Gibson, the tourism director for Decatur and Morgan County, does not serve on that board. Occasionally, she has dropped in for meetings because they have worked closely together. So she doesn't serve on that board. She doesn't have a seat on it. So they would like to appoint Marley if the council would consider her.
Appreciate the research.
Yes, sir.
Chuck, do you have anything? Herman, I do have a question. Ben Goldman, we, back in 17, I have this, or 18, I'm sorry, we asked him, Mr. Wally Terry, and actually Ms. Hill and I actually met Mr. Goldman at a meeting, and this is concerning the need for, let's see, abandoned dangerous buildings and structures in the city. We had waited for a while. There was a conflict of interest with DEU and their attorneys, but that got cleared up. I'm just wondering why we haven't seen that. I mean, that was, gosh, way before COVID.
Well, to answer your question, I've asked him several occasions, and he seemed to get back with me. I could do that again, but we're waiting on him to be open. I like being fine, but we had the question about the conflict, which took a while. I don't know whether COVID-19.
But that got resolved, the conflict.
It has. In fact, we're using attorneys in that firm in our Limestone County case. So yes, I can follow up again, but I have asked him several times, and he said he would get back to me when he had a chance.
I believe we paid that firm, did we not, to do this work?
No, ma'am.
We have not paid them?
We're not paying them any money.
Okay.
No,
Making
we
sure we have.
only try to pay each other, get
Okay,
services.
all right. It's been a while, so.
I agree with you.
All right.
I agree with you.
All right. Any department heads? Mayor?
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you.